As we encounter the phenomenal flow of reality, our mind grabs onto chunks of this flow and cuts them off in space and time in order to establish objects. In order to establish an iPhone, we must cut it off from African cobalt miners and Chinese child workers. In order to establish our partner within clear Cartesian edges, we must cut him or her off from their best friend in 6th grade and their mother's touch and the dream they had last night and the book that's opened by the bed upstairs. This gives us something called my partner, with clear edges in space and time. But what we've created exists only in our minds. The partner that our mind creates is not really there in the world. We carry out this amputation on everything we encounter, and this is how we create our solid world. Our own mind continually creates an object-filled world around us, where things exist within clearly defined edges in Cartesian space, and these things are all cut off in time. We then spend our lives moving through this world, attempting to arrange all these things we've created around us into stable constellations. This never quite works, but it gives rise to a continuous psychological experience, the me that we think we are. So this is one of the first giant steps you have to take in Zen. You have to overcome all of your mental programming that tells you there's a place called the world, full of iPhones and partners and red states, that is already there. The world that you are moving through from moment to moment is not already there. You are generating this. And the way you do this is by relentlessly cutting off the phenomenal flow of world around you, both in terms of time and space. You relentlessly establish people and objects within edges that your own mind imposes. And the last thing you do is truly remarkable. You proceed to think that this world that you are generating, full of partners and iPhones and red states, is external to you, that it is an ontological environment that you are moving through. Here's what you need to focus in on. Your own mind is creating every aspect of this world, every temporal and spatial edge, every temporal and spatial boundary. You then spend your life moving through this world, regarding it as external. So you basically spend your entire life moving through your own mental landscape of partners and iPhones, thinking all the while that this landscape is an external ontological environment that your being is located in. This is the psychological state that Zen challenges you to awaken from, this isolated me that is forever moving forward through the world, encountering versions of people and objects that are all amputated in space and time. Zen Master Dogen puts it like this: that a self advances and confirms myriad dharmas is delusion. That myriad dharmas advance and confirm a self is realization. If you are new to Dogen, myriad dharmas is his term for the phenomenal world, all these flowing expressions around you that you are cutting off into partners and trees and cats and iPhones and sidewalks. When you first encountered these lines from Dogen, his use of the word confirm seems strange. But this is just Dogen's way of saying that we confirm or establish a solid world by cutting off all the myriad dharmas, both in space and time. Each moment of our partner is a phenomenal flow that includes her 6th grade friends and her book upstairs and the summer she spent in France. But we cut all of that off. We locate it outside of our current Cartesian edges and establish a partner in front of us. We cut off rare earth miners and Chinese child workers and Irish tax shelters and establish an iPhone within beveled edges. We confirm a world out of the myriad dharmas and proceed to advance through this object-filled world as a separate self, trying to take hold of and arrange all the things we've created. Each of us knows how untrue all this amputation is. Book upstairs and dream last night and that summer in France and the coffee you just made her all resolve into her touching your elbow as she goes by. And all of this engenders a phenomenal moment of you. The self that is located within edges, surrounded by empty space, that advances through an external place called the world, is a mental projection. It's not what's really going on. There is a radical ontological difference between these two lines from Dogen. In the first line, a pre-existing self advances through world, establishing a solid environment out of the myriad dharmas. But in the second line, this self is nowhere to be found, and neither is the spatialized landscape it moves through. Instead, world advances and confirms a self. World is temporal. It is advancing. It is happening. World is a verb. It is not substantial and spatial, spread out along axes in Cartesian space and time. So, in the second line, the self that occurs, yourself, is not substantial. Your being takes place. It is temporal. It happens. You don't exist. You occur. You have to let this sink in. This self that the myriad dharmas actualize, that moment of your partner touching you as she passes by, is only there for a moment. Your being is momentary. There is no you that persists or moves from one moment to the next. In the next moment, world advances again. Cat rubs your leg, once out. You hear the trash truck gearing to a halt. There is no two-legged you moving between moments in an external world. World is advancing and confirming moments of you. World is not external at all. In Dogen's first line, describing the software you've been running all your life, world is external to you, and you spend your life advancing through it, attempting to know it from the outside. World is forever separate from you, foreign to you. You can only have experiences of it across empty space. But in the second line, world, in the form of your partner, the cat, the day unfolding, is advancing and actualizing moments of you. So none of this is external to your being. World is resolving into moments of self, of you. Your experience of world is intimate. It's literally who you are. When world advances into moments of self, there is no self that owns or is having these moments. Your partner touches your elbow, and this is a phenomenal moment of you. This is not an experience of the world that a you is having. No owner-operator is involved or required. So the me that has been your vehicle for being alive your whole life is gone. It's not there. And yet everything's working just fine. In the next moment, the partner touching you arrangement of world is gone. Cat wants out. This is simply another arrangement of world, another phenomenal moment of you, one that is not owned or being had by a me. So it is no problem that you do not persist from one moment to the next. Your experience of being alive does not need to be a personal possession. Your experience of being alive has always been and will continue to be thoroughly personal. The dharmas that advance into each moment of your being are entirely unique, and the phenomenal arrangements of self and world that result are one of a kind. But none of this creates or generates a you that stands apart from the myriad dharmas, a you that is having the experience of being alive. Here's what you need to understand. These two lines from Zen Master Dogen simply reflect two different software approaches to being alive, two different ways of organizing phenomenal experience. Whichever software you run determines the version of world and self that happens. The software you run determines what sort of experience of being alive you have. You already know what sort of experience of being alive the first software generates. It's the experience of being alive you've been having all your life, in which an isolated you moves forward through time and forward through the world, attempting to reach completion and happiness. And the unbroken psychological experience this journey produces ends up being who you think you are. And this you is forever separate from everything it ever encounters. It can only ever know people and things from the outside. But when you run this second software, there is no fundamental separation between you and world. World is advancing into moments of you. So everything is intimate. It all advances into moments of you. Neither time nor world are external to your being. So nothing is external to your being. You can see that if nothing is external to your being, the experience of being alive turns into quite an adventure.